Ever since Dragon Ball GT left us with Goku saying goodbye and taking off with Shenron closing the franchise off for good at the time, many fans often wondered as to whatever happened following Goku's departure, and at the time, many years ago, we had the fan concept of Dragon Ball New Age, a fan manga that I had reviewed originally on this channel nearly 5 years ago, and now it's revamped, remastered, and better than ever as the story of Rigor finally returns in this manga chapter number 1 special as we dive forward after the events of Dragon Ball GT and learning about what happened to our heroes, what brought them to where they are currently, and the new enemy that has arrived on Earth. As once more before we begin, if you are new to this channel and have a love and passion for anime and Dragon Ball, then don't forget to go ahead and smash that subscribe button and turn on all notifications to never miss a single upload, and be sure to go ahead and give this video a huge thumbs up, slap a like down below if you guys love the fan manga's ideas, alongside checking out the original Dragon Ball fan manga's concepts and ideas located down in the description box below for all the latest and best Dragon Ball fan mangas created by the community for the community, so be sure to go ahead and check those mangas out down below as we kick off the remastered Dragon Ball New Age manga chapter number 1 special, with the narration having to state 3 years have passed since Son Goku and his friends defeated the evil dragons. Far across space, 2 unknown visitors head towards the Earth, as indeed several years have passed since the conclusive battle involving Goku and Omega Shenron. So since that conclusive battle, everything has been peaceful on Earth, and as we make our way back to Earth, we notice how inside of Satan's house, 2 individuals are beginning to speak as they go on to state, "How are you holding up? I hope the press hasn't been too hard on you," as the second individual goes on to reply, "It's fine." Ha! I knew you'd say that. As we make our way inside of Satan's house, we notice how Hercule at this point, who has aged very much so, goes on to state, "Still, these conferences are a necessary evil. People may know who you are, but they need to know who you are." Don't worry, with me in your corner, you'll learn the ins and outs of getting the people on your side. Being the champ is more than just a title and a brand after all, as Hercule himself is speaking to Android 18 directly, as Android 18 is now known as the world champion. With Hercule having to further reassure 18, he goes on to tell her that with him in her corner, she's bound to succeed, as 18 goes on to reply, "This stuff is nothing. I can handle it." As Hercule goes on to reply, "Ha! I know you can." And soon, they all will too. As 18 sits there with her daughter Marin, we can clearly see how much these characters have changed throughout the years, and assumingly enough, we don't know how much time has passed, but I will say the overall level of detail behind this is phenomenal. As we go back to East City, we overhear 2 individuals beginning to speak, as one of them goes on to state, "Goten, I'm so tired. This is going to be too much fun," as assumingly Goten seems to be going out with a female, as the female goes on to tell him, "I've never been to a, what did you call it? A movie theater? I've only seen films at home." And yes, indeed, Goten finally looks like he has a girlfriend, as of course he himself has matured so much since the time of the Shadow Dragons having to arrive on Earth. Goten further goes on to tell her, "That's why I wanted to take you. You're going to love it." As she goes on to reply, "Are you sure we're not too casual? A place like this is bound to have a dress code, right?" As Goten further tells her, no, we're fine." As meanwhile, back in Satan City, in the Orange Star High School where Gohan originally attended, we overhear chit-chatter within the high school itself, as an individual goes on to state, "Man, this bites. A quiz? This early in the year? Well, maybe it wouldn't be a big deal if you just studied more." As we overhear a bunch of students having to complain about tests and quiz, it feels almost as if all of these characters have been humanized, and that's what I feel like Malik had done a good job in giving these characters a bit more depth than how he did in his previous Dragon Ball New Age adaptation. As meanwhile, inside of Orange Star High School, we finally get to see Pan, who of course now has grown up so much so to where she approaches it having to state, "Sure thing, count me in, guys." As of course previously the students had discussed in having a session tonight and wanted Pan to be involved, so of course with Pan having to agree, she's doing her own thing. Meanwhile, back somewhere on the road, we notice how Trunks, seemingly enough, had in some way, shape, or form taken over his mom's business. As one of the agents next to Trunks goes on to tell him, and there's a press conference tomorrow for the latest hardware. New sites will be on hand. As Trunks goes on to ask her, are you sure my mom isn't attending? she can do this one instead? As the female goes on to reassure Trunks, Miss Bulma won't be attending, I'm afraid. You'll have to handle this one. As Trunks sighs, he goes on to agree and stating fine, as he further goes on to ask her, by the way, so when should we? As she grabs onto Trunks' hand, she goes on to tell him in due time. So at this point, all of our secondary characters have not only grown up, but they've also evolved during this process. As back on Kame's lookout, we notice how Popo is watering some flowers. He's enjoying himself as he goes on to state, so peaceful. Though Popo does wish Dende would return soon, still, it has been quite some time since Dende has seen his people. He must be enjoying himself. Popo can wait. Popo will be here. Besides, Popo is not alone. As Mr. Popo slowly turns around, we have Piccolo meditating and doing his own thing, in typical Piccolo fashion, having to keep to himself. Meanwhile, we go back to Chi-Chi as she's hanging clothes. As she looks up in the air, she's also aged. She goes on to state, I wonder how those three are doing up there. As she sings along and having to carry about her day, we also notice elsewhere how Super Saiyan 4 Goku is in action. And if you pay very close attention to detail, he's tired, he's sweating up a storm, he looks to be a tad bit beat up, and he's also very serious. So what could Goku possibly be up to in using the Super Saiyan 4 transformation? Well, Super Saiyan 4 Goku in fact is training against Majub and Gohan, and what I really enjoy about this is seeing how the three of them are literally duking it out on the Supreme Kai planet while the Kaioshins are panicking for their lives. As Kabito Kai goes on to cry out, Great Ancestor! Perhaps it was a bad idea to tell them they can come train up here. As the Elder Kai cries out, hey, take it easy, will you? We are still here, you know. So the fight in and of itself is so intense that they're shaking the very core of the planet itself, which, keep in mind, following the events of the Shadow Dragons, I'm really happy that Malik chose to actually give Gohan more or less a significant role in this manga rather than letting him be a complete nobody as we've seen before. So Malik in fact did do Gohan justice, as while fighting, Goku goes on to say to himself, can't get rusty, not even a bit. I may not be able to become a god on my own yet, but I know there are things beyond Super Saiyan 4, and I intend to find it. So this further confirms that Goku in the Dragon Ball New Age manga does know of a level far beyond Super Saiyan 4, as he even goes on to confirm himself that he may not be a god, but he knows that there are levels far beyond the current form that he has now, which was never implied, I believe, in the original Dragon Ball New Age concept, so that in and of itself is a very good thing. Elsewhere, we also get to see how Vegeta is training as well, and Malik actually gave him the traditional Vegeta hair rather than keeping it in the old GT style fashion, so that in and of itself again is a huge plus. And as Vegeta trains, he goes on to say to himself, we're finally equals. I refuse to let Kakarot slip ahead of me again. Not even for a moment. So I love the intensity behind Vegeta here, because even though he's training by himself, he goes on to further confirm that right now they are both equal. As only then the narration goes on to state the warriors of Earth have enjoyed these past 3 years. But even as they embrace this peace, a face from a long forgotten past begins its descent to Earth, as we notice the original 2 Saiyan space pods that were hurtling towards Earth have now finally arrived, and Vegeta had finished his training. And as he steps out, his daughter goes on to ask him, another hard day in the gravity room, daddy? As he turns around, he notices Bulma and Bra there, with Bulma having to tell him every day with this man, hasn't missed a day since Sun came back. And with Bra having to hold on to a bottle of water, she goes on to tell her father, here daddy, drink up, and take a shower before you start to stink. As Vegeta grabs onto the water bottle, we notice how the entire place begins to shake. As Bulma proceeds to ask, what was that? An earthquake? As Vegeta goes on to reply, barely a tremor, calm down. As he walks away, unbeknownst to them, the 2 Saiyan space pods have finally crashed on Earth. As they thought it was an earthquake, in fact it is not. And as the first individual steps out, we notice how in fact it is a female, resembling that of a female Saiyan, as she uses her scouter to scout all throughout the land, as finally a male figure also emerges from the second Saiyan space pod. As he slowly approaches her, he goes on to ask, Picking up anything? As she turns around, we notice this massive individual standing behind her as she goes on to reply to him, abundant life, a handful of large unit readings, in which at long last we finally have the debut of Rigger and his wife finally come to Earth. Now Rigger's overall design has also changed in comparison to Malik's original concept many years ago, and they also have tails just in case you haven't noticed. As Rigger goes on to ask her how large, she goes on to reply, larger than mine for sure, but there is a big one nearby, the biggest on the planet. It's somewhat comparable to yours. As Rigger looks down, he goes on to ask her where. As she proceeds to point it out, she goes on to tell him that way. Seems to be in that city we passed over there. As he proceeds to look on, he goes on to tell her, let's go then. And with the female having to look back at Rigger, she goes on to tell him perhaps you should rest for a moment first. It's dangerous to exert yourself so soon after hypersleep. As he proceeds to tell her no. I have rested enough. Come. As Rigger takes her hand, he proceeds to lift off and carrying her with him as they make their way towards West City where they originally picked up on this massive energy level. And as they take off, all of a sudden, everyone begins to get this feeling within them as Piccolo, Pan, Goten, Trunks, everybody seems to be detecting this massive energy level within Earth itself. As Goten goes on to cry out, What is that? With Goten's girlfriend having to ask, wait, what's wrong, Goten, right in front of the ticket machine? Giro also goes on to cry out, Miss Pan, massive energy level readings detected, Giro. And even Trunks at this point is shook out of his mind as his assistant goes on to ask Trunks, what's the matter? As even Vegeta himself literally stopped in his own tracks, dropping the water that he had, as he goes on to say to himself, what in the... Who is that? That's not Kakarot. Damn it. And as Vegeta begins to run outside, he goes on to say to himself, whoever that is, they're coming this way. Fast. What? As he looks up in the sky, he notices an individual in which shakes Vegeta down to his very core. As the individual looks down, he goes on to tell Vegeta, it's been a long time, Prince Vegeta, as the manga chapter special comes to a close. Now this manga adaptation is drastically different in comparison to the original Dragon Ball New Age manga chapter number 1 special, which Malik did actually do a huge redesign for the characters. He shifted the story in a completely opposite direction, and I really do love the level of detail, the level of depth, and the level of humanization that he gave the rest of the characters, because you can ultimately relate to Trunks having to attend business meetings, to Goten having to go out to the movies with a girl, to Goku and Vegeta still till this day training to become the best, for Gohan to put the books aside and understanding the threat level ahead and actually putting his training first and taking himself serious. So this in and of itself, I think, is a great addition into what's about to come for manga chapter number 2. So again, I do encourage you guys to support Malik Studios, in which you guys can find the direct link located down in the description box below, his Twitter, and of course the site in which you guys can read Dragon Ball New Age. But also, I posted on my personal Twitter an older copy of the original Dragon Ball New Age manga, in which I am very grateful in having, but the question lingers, is Malik going to go down the route in still incorporating Super Saiyan 5 Rigger versus Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta? Is he going to shift the entire narrative here in doing something different? I'm very excited because it ultimately still keeps true to the overall concept and idea of Rigger's backstory and why he's personally seeking out Vegeta, but I am also very curious if he's going to keep the fights the same or even the power levels the same for that matter. But again, I want to get your thoughts in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on this overall manga chapter idea with Rigger having to know Vegeta, with Rigger having to come for Vegeta specifically? What are your overall ideas and thoughts on the concept of Rigger having to be here, and what you guys overall think is going to happen going forward with Rigger having to fight Vegeta and possibly having Goku intervene? Thank you all so much for watching, guys. Once more, if you guys are stoked, ready, and excited for the upcoming manga chapter, then be sure to go on ahead and smash that subscribe button, turn on all notifications by clicking on the bell icon, Give this video a huge thumbs up, slap a like down below if you guys enjoyed it, and be sure to go on ahead and follow and subscribe to my secondary and third channels, in which you guys can find those links located down below. Thank you all so much for your time, thank you all so much for your support, and I'll be seeing you all down in the comment section below. Have a great day, guys. Peace.
This is the Galactic Emperor of the Universe, and of course I'm here to tell you to subscribe to UnrealEntGaming.
Also follow UnrealEntGaming on these social media platforms to stay connected at all times. And if you don't, then very soon you will all be dead! Oh, did someone say UnrealEntGaming? Oh my god.
The fuck's up, on? Put on some clothes!
Well, why don't you put on any clothes?
What? I don't need clothes. Jesus Christ, that's huge! What, Broly?
Freezer.
Uh-oh.
Prepare to die!